Prepare for a story that won't let you sleep. A dark tunnel and footsteps in the dark. Watch till the end if you're not afraid to uncover the truth. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more chilling stories. I swear I'll never go near the train tracks again. But I feel like death under the wheels of a train is my inevitable fate. It's as if something dark is pulling the strings of my life, dragging me toward those cold, steel tracks. My last encounter with the mysterious railroad man wasn't the first, and probably won't be the last. It seemed like my face intrigued him, as if he saw something in it that was bound for ruin. This story began a long time ago, back when I was just an ordinary kid in a small town. I lived in a remote town where every gust of wind and creak of old houses at night felt like ominous signs. Our town had only 3 schools, and I attended the first high school, which was considered the best. It was a building with old hallways where lights often didn't work, and silence spread like mist. Academic success was challenging for me, but I tried my best. In that school was my classmate Maria. She had fiery red hair and amber-colored eyes, a hue so unusual that many found it intimidating. She was different, always somehow distant, with a gaze that seemed to see more than was possible. She wasn't an ordinary girl, more like someone you've known since childhood, but never fully uncovered her story. We were classmates, but it felt more like an unspoken pact, something that had been lingering for years, something deeper than friendship. One evening, we decided to walk out of town together. Though it was already late, walking with her along the long, rural path in the dim light of the setting sun sent a cold shiver through me. When we reached the railroad tracks, she stopped, as if something was drawing her toward the tracks themselves. Her eyes glinted with an unusual light.
Do you want to hear an old legend?
She asked quietly, and I nodded as if I had no choice.
It is said
Maria began in a whisper.
that the soul of a man who died in a terrible accident wanders these tracks. He was a railway worker, switching the tracks on a dreadful night. Back then, these tracks were filled with wild workers and dark secrets, but this man was working alone. Just as he was in the middle of his work, a train derailed and struck him right on the tracks. They say the train split his body in half, separating him into 2 parts. He never found peace, and his spirit wanders, torn apart just like his body.
She paused and looked at me with that strange, cold gaze I sometimes saw in her, as if she wanted to continue, but then thought better of it.
And so he walks here,
She whispered.
seeking lost souls to pull under the wheels of the train, so they can never escape again.
Something in her voice, that dark tone, sent a chill through me like an icy wind. The tracks stretched out before us, disappearing into the shadow of an old tunnel, which seemed darker than the night itself.
So, are you scared?
Maria asked with a faint smile, but there was something in her eyes that made me doubt it was just a game. Of course not, I lied, though my hands were trembling. She took a step toward the tunnel, where the iron tracks lay in wait around the corner like outstretched fingers. As we approached the entrance, I felt the air around us grow colder. The silence was heavy, and each of our footsteps echoed like the sound in an empty grave.
Just 10 meters.
Maria whispered.
Just walk through this tunnel and you'll be safe.
Her voice did nothing to calm me. In fact, with each step I took, my heartbeat quickened. Suddenly, I heard something strange. Soft, almost inaudible footsteps echoing from the depths of the dark tunnel, moving toward us. Maria, I whispered. Do you hear that too? She didn't answer. She just smiled, as if this was some morbid joke. But the footsteps in the tunnel grew louder, heavy and slow, and with each one I felt fear gradually paralyze me. Then it hit me. We were no longer alone. I tried to catch my breath, but the air felt thick, filled with something invisible pressing on my chest. Every sound of our own steps was now drowned by the dark thudding of footsteps approaching us from within the tunnel's depths. I looked back at Maria, but she just stood there, her gaze vacant, as if under some spell. Suddenly, she no longer felt like my classmate, but rather part of that terrifying legend she had told me. "We need to go," I whispered, urgently, but my voice was lost in the echo. Instead of answering, Maria moved toward the tracks, as if something was drawing her there. She took a few steps forward, her eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. "Maria, come back," I called, but she didn't respond. She moved slowly, hypnotically, with her eyes fixed straight ahead, and I felt fear tightening around my throat. I couldn't leave her to go alone. I took a step toward her, but just then, a deep, terrifying rumble echoed from the tunnel, as if someone or something had exhaled darkness straight at us. I stopped, and a chill shot through my entire body. Emerging from the depths of the tunnel was a dark shadow, slow and menacing, as if it had chosen us. From the darkness appeared a figure, tall and gaunt, with a face so deformed that it was hard to tell where human features ended and something unknown, belonging to another world, began. And yet, those eyes were alive. They looked at us with something between hatred and despair. Maria finally stopped. She stood there, face to face with the shadow, as if she were waiting for something. I took a few steps toward her, but as I got closer, I saw the disfigured railway worker lift his hand. His fingers were long, bony, tipped with claws, reaching out toward her. "No!" I shouted, reaching out to pull Maria back. The moment I touched her, it was as if she woke from a dream. She turned to me, her eyes full of fear and uncertainty. But before we could do anything, the railway figure began moving toward us more quickly, each step making the ground tremble beneath our feet. In the darkness, his features twisted, becoming more grotesque, as if rage and suffering were tearing him apart from the inside. "Run!" I shouted to Maria, pushing her toward the end of the tunnel. We took off running, our footsteps echoing in our ears and the cold air stinging our faces. Behind us, I could hear the heavy footsteps of the railway man, closing in faster and faster. His presence felt like an icy wind, chasing us wherever we went. The tunnel seemed endless, but suddenly we saw light on the other side, the exit. The sight of an escape filled us with strength, and we ran as fast as our legs would carry us. Just as we reached the edge of the tunnel, I felt something cold and bony clamp down on my shoulder. Fear shot through me like an electric shock. "You don't belong here," whispered a voice behind me, deep and dark, as if it came from the depths of the earth itself. It was a voice filled with hatred and despair, the voice of the railway man who had never found peace. I gripped Maria's hand, and with all my strength broke free from the icy grip. We burst out of the tunnel and collapsed onto the ground beside the tracks, breathless, our hearts pounding. We looked back, but the railway man was gone. The tunnel had fallen silent again, as if everything that had just happened was nothing more than a nightmare. Maria looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, and in a trembling voice, she whispered,
"I never believed the legend could be true."
We looked once more toward the tunnel, but the darkness remained still, as if it had buried its secrets back into the shadows. "We need to go," I said, helping her to her feet. Without another word, we left the place, which felt like just a memory of something long forgotten, or something that was waiting there for its next victim. Since that day, we never returned to the railway tracks. But every night, when I close my eyes, I see that dark tunnel and the disfigured figure of the railway man waiting at the end, as if calling me back. If you have the courage, here you'll find more chilling stories that won't let you rest easy. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like so you never miss a terrifying experience.